So I want to talk about the basic structure that I use for just about all of my clients at this point. And like I said, it's one thing I encourage you to do is start finding what kind of training that you want to do as a coach. Again, it could be just all kettlebells. You think that makes the most sense. It could be all barbells. It could be like all machines. Whatever your kind of niche is, that is what makes the most sense. And as you dive deeper and deeper into that, you're going to start attracting more of those clients that you want to train. And you're going to naturally kind of weed out the people that you don't want to train. Like for instance, really overweight women who are super concerned with their weight, I never really work well with, because I'm concerned with getting stronger. I want people to get really strong, and I want them to experience that kind of empowerment. Whereas they want to lose weight. And I talked about my biggest mistake with like my third ever client was a weight loss client trying to lose weight for her wedding, and I made her do starting strength. So I don't really mesh really well with that. With that population. However, there's tons of trainers who intrinsically understand their needs and their wants and will do great with those clients. So start it's not something you're going to figure out today or tomorrow or in the next week or 6 months, but it's something you'll keep developing as a coach, and you'll start narrowing it more and more. But today, like I said, I want to cover exactly what I do with my clients so you understand my structure, and it'll hopefully kind of potentially carry over into your own structure. And one thing that I've learned from some really smart coaches in the industry is the best coaches steal. So feel free to use this exactly as is and start changing some things around. That's how I learned a lot of good ways to start programming. Is I've looked at other really smart coaches. I look at their programming, I steal their programming, I see what works with my clients, I see what doesn't work, and I throw away what I don't like and I keep what I like. So steal what I'm doing, keep what you like, throw away what you don't like, and start kind of molding it into your own kind of system. But again, my system is pretty basic, very simple. I always start with a warm-up. I've talked about warm-ups plenty, but I just want to say I always start with a warm-up, very important. Power exercises are sometimes included, sometimes not. Again, I discussed reasons, for time purposes, or if there's just a lot of volume in the workout, I'll sometimes drop power, or I'll keep it, just kind of depending what phase I'm at with my clients and where they're at. But the one thing that's always in a program, besides warming up, is always some sort of big focused lift. And it's typically going to be a squat, bench, deadlift, overhead press, one of those 4 basic movements, because they have the biggest carryover into so many other things. It's going to help you get really strong. So there's always some sort of main focus lift for the day. And I'll always superset that with some sort of very light, very easy exercise. Typically with something like bench press, overhead press, it'll be something like face pulls or band pull aparts, some sort of upper back and shoulder health exercise, because it's very easy. It's not going to detract from my rest periods, and it's just going to help get a little bit extra volume, which will increase my work capacity to a small extent, but it'll also just keep my shoulders healthy at the same time. It's something I'm very concerned with because I've had a lot of shoulder issues in the past. With lower body exercises like deadlifts and squats, I'll typically pair these up with some sort of hip mobility exercise or a lower level core exercise. Like for instance, I'll use dead bugs. That's a really good core exercise. It's not super intense, but it gives you some good direct core training while giving you some decent amount of active rest because they're not very difficult. Things like that. You want to keep it low level so you can recover for your main lift, but you're also just not sitting around on your butt doing nothing, and it allows you to get more work done. After that, I'll typically pair up two exercises to help support that main exercise. So for instance, if I'm doing bench press that day, supporting exercises for that could be incline bench press, could be dumbbell bench press, could be landmine presses, even overhead presses, some sort of supporting push exercise to help that bench get stronger. I'll also pair that up, superset that with some sort of pulling back exercise. So again, using bench press as an example, you use barbell rows, dumbbell rows, seated cable rows, some sort of heavy, really heavy back exercise to pair the pushing exercise. Because at this point, we really want to superset 2 pretty big exercises together, because we've already really built a ton of strength with this main movement first. And now these secondary movements are going to help support that strength, but now we're going to start pushing our conditioning and work capacity at the same time. So again, I'll use bench press as an example. So let's say my supporting exercises are incline bench press and barbell bent over rows. Those are really big exercises, and they're gonna tax my conditioning to an extent. And that's not that big a deal, because while I am still getting really strong at this point, again, as I said, I've already done the main piece of strength training. So it's okay if like I'm a little tired when I go from incline bench to barbell rows, and when I go back to barbell rows to incline bench. I want to push my conditioning at this point, teach my body how to display its strength while it's still a little tired. So while my rest periods for my main lifts will be pretty strict, at least 2 minutes on the very bottom end, usually three or 4 minutes is where I keep my rest periods for the main lift. For the secondary lifts, I'm not as strict with the rest periods. If I feel pretty good, after 90 seconds, I'm going to go to the next exercise. Or if I feel good, if I feel really good right after doing incline bench and I go right into barbell rows, I'm totally fine with that. And I'm totally fine with my clients doing that. And I want them to do that because, again, I want people to learn how to display their strength while they're tired. And again, it's going to start pushing your conditioning and work capacity levels at the same time, because I want to get stronger, but strength is not my only goal. I'm not a power lifter, and I don't want to train people who want to be power lifters, because you put so much into that strength side of things that you're going to miss a lot of other stuff, to include health and conditioning and work capacity in that, and all of those goodies, so to speak. After that, I will finish with some sort of circuit training to include accessory exercises to just push conditioning at this level. And again, now we're really tired. We're pushing our body to display strength while we're we're not exhausted at this point, but we're really tired. We've already done a lot of work. Now we're just pushing our body to really push the conditioning levels. So strength is really not as big is not a concern really at all at this point. We are still lifting weights, obviously, for a lot of movements. But the whole point here is to get a lot of work done in a short amount of time. So again, using the bench press example, we'll do incline bench and barbell rows. And then from there, it might just be like push-ups, cable rows, bicep curls, and a core exercise. Let's just say planks. So we got 3 or 4 exercises there. We're just going through as quickly as possible. It could be anywhere from like 2 to 5 rounds. We're just trying to get through as much work as possible. And the system really works really well together, because as the main lifts get heavier, the secondary lifts get heavier. And as as your strength increases in the main lift, it's going to increase in those secondary lifts. And it's also obviously going to increase in those accessory lifts as well. So you're increasing your strength in the first half of the workout, while also increasing your conditioning levels in the second half of the workout. So it just feeds into itself. Your strength increases, your conditioning increases, and it's a positive feedback loop throughout the entire program. For lower body days, it's just a slight difference, because you can't really superset 2 leg exercises together. I mean, I guess you could, but it'd be very, very taxing. And lower body days are very taxing because they're very big muscles. You're lifting lots of weight. So for instance, I'll do deadlift with, again, some sort of low level core exercise, let's say dead bugs. And then I'll pair that up with an opposing muscle group. So deadlifts are a hip dominant exercise, primarily working the glutes and hamstrings and lower back, posterior chain exercises. I'll pair that up with some sort of quad dominant exercise, usually like goblet squats, front squats, split squats, something like that, where it's a knee dominant exercise, primarily quad dominant exercise. Now, those are usually pretty intense exercises. You go from deadlift right into, let's say, front squat. Those are very intense exercises. So you don't want to pair that up with like a Romanian deadlift. You don't want to pair front squat and Romanian deadlift up. Again, you could potentially, but I just think that amount of work is just going to or it's going to really interfere with what we're trying to achieve here. So I would pair that up with a pretty heavy core exercise. Weighted planks are one of my favorite go-tos. Ab wheel rollouts, pot stirs, those types of things. Really heavy, hard core exercise to pair up with that secondary exercise. And again, we'll finish with some sort of conditioning circuit. Let's say we did front squats and weighted planks. So we can do with some lunges, we can do some glute bridges or kettlebell swings. We can do maybe some calf raises and another core exercise, let's say powerlift presses. So again, we're getting a lot of work done here. And the goal with these workouts is the upper body workouts are going to be a little bit shorter, around anywhere from 45 to 55 minutes. And the lower body exercises are going to be a little bit longer, anywhere from about that 55 to 65 minute mark. Just again, because you have a lot more muscle mass in your lower body, it takes a longer time to recover between exercises, and you're just getting a lot of you're putting your body through a lot, basically. But that is the structure, the real high level structure. I'll dive into that in a sheet so you can kind of see it displayed on paper and what exactly that looks like. So again, this is exactly how I program for myself, how I program for most of my clients at this point. And one thing to note, that there is at the top here, back squat warm up plus box jump. So this is a really important aspect to most of my programs at this point. when it comes to the main lift for the day, you can't just jump into it, especially when you're getting really high in strength levels. Like you imagine if you went to unrack 225 on the bench and you haven't done any bench at all, it's going to be really hard to do that because you're physically not ready to do that. You're mentally not prepared to do that. And it just doesn't make sense just to jump into that heavy a weight. So you always want to warm up to your working set weight for the day. And generally for clients, I'll usually program something like the bar for like 5 to 10 reps, and then usually be something like 35 to 45% for the first set, 45 to 55% for the second set, and then like 55 to 65% for the third set, maybe up to 75% for a fourth warm-up set, just kind of depending on how heavy they're going that day. But it really is just going to be dictated by what percentages the clients and what I'm using for that day. And again, this is something that will be covered much more in depth when we get to that module. So, but like I said, you always want to do warm-up sets, and then I always pair that up with the explosive movement because it's the perfect time to do that, because we don't need to rest for warm-up sets. It's just a warm-up. It's literally we're warming up to the weight that we're using today, so we don't need to rest for those. And we can just throw in the explosive exercise because it's just extra time, or it's not going to take away from the workout because it's going to take a couple extra seconds to perform those, because generally these are going to be low reps and they're not going to be that hard, that difficult to do, and that difficult to recover from. So we do 3 or 4 of these sets, and then we go right into our working sets here. You can see we're doing the back squat paired up with the plank, and then we're doing the heavy RDLs paired up with the ab wheel rollouts, and then finishing with a final circuit of step ups, hip thrusts, and clamshells. And for lower body days, it's going to be pretty typical. Typically we're going to finish the circuit with 2 lower body exercises that we can do a pretty decent amount of reps with pretty quickly. And then this third exercise, kind of a catch-all kind of category. It could be like a corrective like we have here. It could be a core exercise. It could be another leg exercise, something like calf raises. There's a lot of different kind of options here. But the whole point, just like before, is this final circuit is we're just doing a lot of work. We've already done we've already done the warm-up plus athletic training. We've already done a lot of heavy strength training. We've done even more heavy strength training while we're tired. So learning how to display our strength while we're tired. And then now we've got through a large part of the workout where, our heart rate's up, and we just want to get a whole bunch of more work done, get our conditioning up, help burn a little bit more fat, and just get in a better shape. So this is the exact workout structure that I do. Again, the percentages and all that stuff, I'm going to cover that in the next module. So I just want to program live an upper body example of what I do, as well as talk through a couple points that I think I missed with the last video. So when it comes to the athletic / explosive exercise, for lower body days, I'm generally going to do some sort of jump or bound, because you don't really have to teach that. There's nothing really to learn. Like a box jump, you jump on a box and land quietly. Like lateral bound, like you jump to the side, don't fall over. Versus like cleans and snatches, they're very technical movements that require a lot of coaching to learn. So again, not something I'm really ever going to program for most people. And if I do program some sort of barbell based power movement, it's going to be something much easier, like a jump shrug, or trap bar jumps, or clean pulls, things that don't require really any coaching to do. So again, lower body days, generally some sort of jump. Upper body days, generally some sort of med ball movement, or possibly plyometric push-ups. But for today, I'm going to put overhead press. So again, warm up plus med ball slams, and then we've got an overhead press. One thing that I do with some clients that are a little bit more advanced, looking to push their work capacity a little bit, maybe have like a military background like myself, for overhead press, I may superset those sometimes with chin-ups, because overhead press and chin-ups by themselves aren't super intense movements. Like if you think about like a bench press, if someone can bench press 225, they might be able to overhead press 150 pounds, maybe 185 pounds if they're really strong. So it's not a super intense movement, comparatively speaking. Like, think someone who has like a 225 bench press generally has about a 315 squat, generally has about a 400 pounds deadlift. So comparatively speaking, it's not that intense. It's not that taxing on a person. And likewise, chin-ups, again, not quite as intense, not quite as taxing. So this is something I'll routinely superset together for this first block. Now, if they are really concerned with getting stronger, or if you just don't or think this doesn't make sense, because it might not make sense for many different people, I would just do this normal kind of like face pulls here, face pulls, or like band pull aparts. Anything like that's a good fit for this. And then you can put chin-ups in that second block, where you can get a little bit, you don't have to recover, from the overhead press in between your chin-ups. And then from here, we can put something like a half kneeling overhead press, something like that. And then for that final block, we can do, let's do push-up. We got lat pull downs. We got tricep extension, tricep extension, triceps should be really, I can't type. And then actually a lot of times for the upper body days, since they are a little less intense, I might do 4 exercises here. So it might be like a bicep curl. I might put a bicep curl down here. Bicep extension, bicep curls, there we go. You can put another light upper back exercise here, like a rear delt. You could put like a shoulder hypertrophy here, so like a front raise. But for those upper body days, I tend to do a little bit more work on those, because again, these aren't as big muscles and you recover a little bit faster in between the sets. So you can get a little bit more overall work done. Not necessary at all. You can cut this down to just 3 exercises. If you want, you can cut it down to 2 exercises as needed. But just again, just want to show kind of a live example of what I do with the upper body days.